Lust is rarely the beginning of the problem, even though it is often treated that way. Most people encounter it first as a moral failure, a lack of discipline, or a weakness of character that needs to be suppressed or punished. But if you look closely, lust almost never appears in a healthy, whole heart. It emerges in places where something deeper has been fractured, neglected, or starved for connection before it becomes a behavior. Lust is a signal. Before it becomes a sin, it is a wound. Many people carry a quiet shame around lust because they believe it reveals something ugly about who they are. They assume it means they are unspiritual, undisciplined, or incapable of self-control. So they try harder. They make rules. They suppress urges. They pray for removal without understanding. Yet the pattern keeps returning because wounds don't heal through pressure. They heal through attention. And God does not approach lust with disgust. He approaches it with discernment. Lust often grows where love felt conditional, inconsistent, or unsafe. It develops in hearts that learned early how to soothe themselves when comfort wasn't available, how to feel desired when affirmation was scarce, how to feel powerful when vulnerability felt risky. It promises closeness without intimacy, relief without exposure, and pleasure without the risk of rejection. That is why it is so compelling. It offers a shortcut to something the soul has been craving for a long time. God sees what is underneath your struggle. He sees the loneliness that didn't have language. He sees the unmet need for tenderness, for being wanted without performance, for being seen without having to impress. Lust is not about desire being too strong. It is about desire being misplaced. Desire itself was never the enemy. God created desire. He designed longing. What breaks his heart is not that you want, but that you learn to reach for substitutes when what you truly needed felt unavailable. When lust is treated only as rebellion, people end up fighting themselves instead of healing. They separate their spirituality from their humanity, believing that holiness requires numbness. But God does not heal by disconnecting you from your body or your emotions. He heals by integrating them. He invites you to bring the very part of you that feels embarrassing, compulsive, or out of control into the light, not so it can be condemned, but so it can be understood. Lust becomes powerful when it is secret. It feeds on isolation and shame. The more you believe that this struggle defines you, the more you hide it, and the more it tightens its grip. But God does not meet you with accusation. He meets you with truth. And the truth is that behavior is often the language of pain. What you reach for reveals what you are hungry for. Some of that hunger comes from touch that was absent or unsafe. Some of it comes from affirmation that was earned instead of freely given. Some of it comes from learning to associate worth with being wanted, even if that wanting was shallow or transactional. Over time, the body learns patterns the mind does not choose consciously. Lust becomes a coping mechanism, not because you are broken, but because you adapted. God is not surprised by this. He understands the nervous system. He understands attachment. He understands how the heart compensates when something essential is missing. That does not make lust harmless, but it reframes it. Sin, in God's economy, is not just about breaking rules. It is about living disconnected from truth, love, and alignment. Lust becomes sin when it pulls you further away from wholeness, from real intimacy, from yourself, and from God. But its roots are often planted in places where you are trying to survive. Jesus never treated wounded people with impatience. He asked questions. He noticed patterns. He addressed the heart beneath the behavior. When he encountered people caught in destructive cycles, he did not start with condemnation. He started with presence. That same posture remains. God is not asking you to white-knuckle your way into purity. He is asking you to let him tend to what is injured inside you. Healing begins when you stop asking only, how do I stop and start asking? What am I reaching for? What comfort am I seeking? What closeness do I long for? What emptiness am I trying to quiet? Lust loses some of its power the moment you get curious instead of critical. Shame thrives on silence, but wounds respond to compassion. God's desire for you is not restraint alone, but restoration. He wants you to experience desire without fragmentation, longing without addiction, intimacy without fear. That kind of healing takes time. It requires honesty. It requires learning to sit with discomfort instead of escaping it immediately. And it requires trust that God is not repelled by your struggle, but present within it. Many people fear that if they stop hating their lust, they will give in to it. But hatred is not what produces freedom. Understanding does. God does not excuse harmful behavior, but he also does not confuse healing with indulgence. He invites you into a deeper work where self-control grows naturally as wounds are addressed, not as a punishment, but as a byproduct of safety and truth. Lust promises intensity, but God offers intimacy. Lust consumes. Intimacy connects. Lust takes. Intimacy gives. Lust isolates you inside yourself. Intimacy invites you into relationship. With God, with others, and with your own body in a way that is grounded and whole. What you are truly craving is not release, but belonging. God does not rush this process. He knows how long it takes to relearn safety, to retrain desire, to rebuild trust with yourself. He is patient where you are harsh. He stays where you want to run, and he keeps inviting you back, not to shame, but to presence. Each moment you choose awareness over avoidance, you are already healing. Lust is not the deepest truth about you. It is not your identity. It is not proof that you are distant from God. It is evidence that somewhere along the way, you learned to meet a legitimate need in an illegitimate way. And God is far more interested in healing that need than in labeling you by your coping strategy. You are not called to amputate desire, but to redeem it. To let God reshape it into something that leads toward life instead of away from it. That work happens slowly, gently, and honestly. And it happens not by fighting yourself, but by letting God into the places you learn to manage alone. Lust may be what you see on the surface, but God sees the wound beneath it, and he is not afraid of either.